Welcome to Hobby Paranormal, and what I have on the workbench today is a 7-in-1 professional Mel-meter. These are the Cadillac of paranormal devices, and I really like this one. There's so much instrumentation that's packed inside of these devices. There's controls along the side, the front, and then if you flip up the stand, there's even some buttons in the back, and they all do different functions on this detector. So the Mel-meter, and these functions can be independently operated. The functions in the back are separate from the functions in the front. So if you push and hold down the power button, the device will turn on. Now what is nice about this display is that it's very large to read. It's got a red background or backlight. That backlight is preserving your night vision so that you don't have to worry about ruining your night vision with it. The function can have a different range. So these are the different ranges of that. And then that displays EMF. Now the dashed lines there are for the temperature probe, which plugs into these slots in the front. Now they're polarized, so you want the narrow one and the plus, and the larger one is the minus, and you want to plug that in. So once you plug that in, this little wire that comes out of here is actually a bimetallic, and it produces a small voltage. It's a thermocouple, and then what it does is it can read the the voltage in there, but I mean it's the temperature is then computed out of what's on the probe there. And if you want EMF responses to be faster, that's what fast does. You can hold and push that in, and it turns off the temperature and exclusively dedicates processing power to the EMF detector. The backlight can be turned off to save the battery. And the functions here are for recording high and low excursions into the EMF field and probably the temperature field. I don't use that function very much. So that's what this does, and you can turn this off. You do not need to have it on to turn on the other functions. And by the way, if you're not going to use this temperature probe, put it in a safe place, because these are very fragile. These tips, if they break, it's over. It doesn't work anymore. So be careful with that. Let's set that aside. They came in a bag, but that doesn't look like enough protection around that device. Okay, let's turn this off. Press and hold the power button, and it'll say off. It'll beep, and now we're done. Let's turn our attention to the other functions that this unit has, and that is, when you lift up the back of the unit, they have buttons and LEDs. So when you push the button, the LED will come on above it saying that that function is active. I will mention that the ATDD, the temperature detection, will not work unless the REM pod is also turned on. So if you turn on the REM pod function, you hear it go, then you can turn on the temperature. The temperature light is over here. I'll turn that on again so you can see that. And it's a red-blue LED. So red meaning trending high, and blue trending low. The REM pod functions have these buttons on the front, the 0 and the range, just like 2.0, REM pod 2.0. So right now, I just touched the antenna to extend it. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to turn up the sensitivity, so we can push the range button, and you can see there's two lights saying it's in mode 2, 3, 4, and 5, and that's the maximum. Now it's very sensitive, and if I put it on 1, I have to get really close. So that's helpful to know that. Also, if you have something weird like this happening and you get stuck, you can always hit the REM 0, and that'll zero that out. The temperature for the oh, by the way, I like this feature. They have holes drilled in there so that you can see when you turn the unit around which ones are on without having to lift up this little stand. This stand is nice, but it's also fragile. I'd always put it back if you're just hand carrying it. It also has a 1/4-20, so you can mount it on a tripod. What else? Okay, oh yes, I was just going to talk about the temperature. This is the temperature probe for that feature. And if we look at it, if I put my finger on it, I'm going to heat it up and that'll turn the red light on. There we go. And they have different tones, I guess, to indicate degree of... Take my finger off of it. And they also have, I think they have that's a trend, and that's a 0. So that's a way to reset the ATDD function, the temperature difference function. Let's look at another one. So this would probably drain your batteries after a while. I wouldn't leave them all running at the same time. The next one is the SDD function, and the SDD function is the shadow detection. And what that does is that invokes this sensor here, the SDD sensor here. It's a light-dependent resistor, and they provide you these different LED modules that a 9-volt battery will snap in, and they'll light them up. And you set this across, well, you keep it in frame, you set this across the hallway. And this one here says short range red, because they're clear, so they'll produce a red light. And this is a 10 millimeter LED, and this was for long range, and again red. So this one's brighter, obviously, that's why it's longer range. And you have to snap the battery in. You want to match up the little castle, which is the minus on the battery, with a little circle, and you don't want to go castle to castle. You want to flip this around, and when you put that in there, you can see it lights up. It lit up for a second, and they're quite tight to put in there. Once you snap that battery in there, it's a little work to get out of there. This is the 5 millimeter version of it, and it lights up the same way. And then you have to pull the battery out. That's good. You don't want these batteries to fall out in these cases. And this all is included in the little pocket of the included case if you buy them from Pro Measure. I think that's the website. I'll leave a link below so you can pick one up yourself. These are quite pricey. They're not cheap, but they're really an excellent tool. So let me show you the shadow detector. It can work with room light. So let's see here. There's the, where does it say? This. So, okay, let me put my hand in front of the sensor. There's the sensor right there. And you can see when I do that. So it's picking up the sensor being shadowed. It works well in low light. That's why they're providing these LED. Even the 9-volt battery was included. This is a special battery. I guess you can't buy them, not for retail. Okay, so that's the shadow detector. And again, you can see the light on there. If you want to turn that off, lift up the little stand, and you have access to the button. Let's turn on the laser grid. Now the laser grid is nice. It's just an LED emitter coming out of here, and you can rotate the rotate that end. I'm going to rotate that end. You can see how it moves around in there. Careful not to unscrew that, but you just want to touch the very end of it. So that's the REM pod. This is, let me turn that off. Again, you don't want to wear down the batteries. If you have to replace the battery, you take that screw out and then you slip the battery case out and you'll find that it requires a 9-volt battery inside. This is model 7:1, professional model, Mel-REM-ATDD. And so that's this model. Now I want to point out that all of these paranormal equipment that I show on my channel, I paid with my own money. I wasn't given any money to review them or anything. This is just out of the love of doing paranormal equipment. And I bought this one several years ago, so I don't know what the prices are today. The other unit that I have that I will show the insides to, this is a model Mel-REM-ATDD. So this is a lesser capable or have fewer sensors on them. It has the REM pod and the temperature difference detector. And it also has the Mel functions that we looked at earlier. It does all the same things. On the side, there are fewer buttons. Now, I've taken off the label. There's a label there, but in order to open the case, I had to remove that label, and they tell you what all these little buttons do. That's the temperature trending light. And in the back, they used the same back plate, but they didn't put the LEDs in, so they didn't drill any holes here. And there's only 2 buttons back here, the REM and the ATDD buttons. And again, you have to turn the REM on, then you can turn on the ATDD button. I don't have a battery in here, so I'm going to, that's why they didn't do anything. So I want to preface this with, this is for educational purposes only. This is not a full teardown. There will be no intellectual property, schematics, or anything revealed. This is just what would happen if somebody would open this case up and look in there themselves. So I'm not going to reveal any secrets. I respect Gary's intellectual property, and I think that he should be very proud of the way that he built this board. So after you get the screws out of the case and you can open it up, the first thing you'll notice is that there's the LCD display and there's the buttons. Now initially I thought these buttons like rock side to side, and they did different functions because of the what they call the legends on these plates, but it turned out that they are just simply long presses or short presses, and they're just a simple push button, nice tactile switches, very unique, very easy to operate in the dark. Okay, so there's a few chips on the front here. There's a little crystal there for the microprocessor. And when you take this one out, now if it was just the Mel-meter, I would expect that this would be the board and there wouldn't be anything else on it. But because this has separate functions, basically like REM pod 2.0 is in here. This is probably the board on the bottom for the REM pod. But let's look at the Mel-meter functions. This is the microprocessor that is soldered to the board. All surface mount, all very nicely laid out. This here is the interface chip for the display, so it lights up the display. I think this might be a custom display, which is very nice. This is the power, and also the power light also acts as a flashlight, which you can turn off from the front panel by holding in the power button. No, pushing the power button, I think. Let me just confirm that. So when that comes on, if I push the power button, yeah, if you push the power button, you can see the red light comes on. So that's like acts like a little flashlight if you're in the dark and you need a little extra light. And a long holding on the power turns it off. Okay. So that's that light right there that does that function. This here is the EMF pickup coil. That's like a little magnetic coil that's wrapped around that form. And then this here is the little temperature probe thing that when you plug them in, this is what grabs the sensor when you plug them in. Okay, so next we'll look at the way that the extra functionality is crammed in here, and I mean crammed in here. Look at all of this that has to be done, and I can only imagine that the 7-in-1 is even more crazy how they pack it all in there. The buttons are put on the side there, and you can see them on the other side here, how they're hand wired to the board. These here are the buttons that are on the other side that activate the REM, the white buttons that you press to turn those functions on. This here looks like the Junior Thurman. We've seen that before with the NE555 or 555 chip and the microprocessor. This other processor is probably the one that does the temperature, the ATDD function. It might also do some other things, but that's what that chip probably does. Again, I'm not reverse engineering it, so I don't really know exactly what's in them. I know that these are microprocessors, and that's a timing chip. The antenna is amazing how this had to be put in there, because REM pods, as you know, have the REM pod antenna goes up and down. This has to come out to the front. All of that has to be attached in here somehow. Also, I'll point out that each of these different functions have their own speakers for them. So they have independent speakers. Probably the REM and the temperature have these two, and the Mel meter has a little beeper right there that's attached to the board. And all of this has been strain relieved, and I have to be very careful because moving these wires around in this configuration can cause them to break. Already things have pulled out. This is going to be a challenge to put back together. I don't recommend that you open them up because it's quite fragile in here. Enjoy your Mel meter and any extra functionality. If you get these meters, please do not open them up. So much respect for how everything is packed in here. This is an insane amount of work to get this all in 3 dimensions to make sure that these parts don't interfere with each other, because when you put this board on top of that board and you've got all these different things, you can see how it all had to be rewired and rerouted in order to fit this all in a small space. I can't imagine what this looks like inside. I do not even dare open it up because of its complexity. If this is an interest of yours, please like and subscribe to the channel. It shows me that you like this content and want to see more of it. Thanks for watching.